2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
So the main issue now is, as has been alleged by one member who was a part of the Supreme Court appointed committee, is that the entire protest around the farm bills, the farm laws, was motivated. Was it really? Joining us now on the show, we have Anil Ghanwat, who is that member of the Supreme Court appointed committee, and Mr. Yogendra Yadav, who's been one of the prominent faces of the anti-farm law protests. Mr. Yadav, I want to start by asking you, does this report now prove that the protests were without substance?
Of course, it is proving.
As a matter of fact, Padmaja, this report now proves that the farmers' unions' opposition and their boycotting of this committee was absolutely justified. So we are vindicated that we should not have participated in this kind of a committee, which we said from day one, these are players, don't make them referees. With all respect to Mr. Ghanwat and Professor Gulati and others, these are some of the prominent spokespersons on behalf of these bills. These are advocates. Don't make them the judge. That's what we said, and we are completely vindicated. I'm also grateful to Anil Ghanwat ji that he brought it in public, because now we get to understand why is it that Supreme Court did not put this report in the public domain. They must have been embarrassed after reading this kind of a report. And I'm also grateful to Anil Ghanwat ji because this report gives us an idea of the designs and conspiracies which are in store for the farmers in future. So thank you very much for exposing all this, Anil ji.
Okay, Anil ji, respond. One, you are not a referee, you are a player, so you are not to be trusted. And second, it shows that the Samyukta Kisan Morcha boycotting your committee and your process was justified.
I'd like to clarify the committee members was the jurisdiction of the Honorable Supreme Court, and so the Supreme Court had decided who should be in the committee. Next thing is that we had done our job as per the mandate given to us by the Supreme Court, and now the SPM did not respond to our request and our invitations to participate in the interactions with the committee. So their views are not included here. Those who had participated, their views have been taken into consideration and the report has come out. I was really surprised why the Honorable Supreme Court didn't release the report. Actually, we should not debate on why the committee was, how the committee was constituted.
They did not release the report, perhaps because they were embarrassed at the kind of claims that have been made in the report. Mr. Ghanwat.
I think there is nothing embarrassing in the report. This is what is required by the agriculture sector of the committee. Now we should debate on the recommendations. Are the recommendations in favor of the farmers and the agriculture sector of the committee? We should go for that. It's not that because of the committee choosing us to be a member in the committee, last 40 years we have been demanding these reforms. And this opportunity had arisen, and it's what all of the members who interacted with the committee, what they have said has reflected in the report. These are not all personal views.
Before we come to the actual recommendations and the methodology, which is very important, respond, Mr. Yadav. The Supreme Court appointed these members. In calling them motivated or spokespersons for a certain viewpoint, aren't you casting aspersions on the choice of the Supreme Court itself, one? And second, are you dismissing the report because it is speaking an inconvenient language?
Padmaja, it's not me. I think Ghanwat ji himself said about 30 seconds ago that for the last 40 years he has been demanding these laws. He's very honest and I salute him. So he's an advocate. Mr. Ashok Gulati, a very prominent and respectable agricultural economist of this country, has been advocating these laws for the last 2 decades. For them to be made a player, a referee in this, would have been embarrassing for them as well, and I thought the honorable thing for them would have been to say, sorry, we are a party to this case, don't make us an adjudicator. The Supreme Court did not realize, and when they, second day, third day, when all these things were brought to the public, I think the court must have felt very awkward. They must have felt even more awkward when they read the report. Allow me to say something about the report. The court's mandate to this committee, in court, is listening to the grievances of the farmers on the issue of farm laws. This is literally the mandate given to this committee. The committee was not asked to give its own opinions. The court did not say, you tell us whether these laws are good or bad. The court said, go speak to the farmers who have a grievance, also to those who do not have a grievance, and tell us what the issues are. The committee, what does the committee say? Committee the farmers who are protesting on the street. 450 organizations were involved in that protest. Not one organization came to this committee. I do not blame the committee. I expect honesty from the committee. The committee should have said what Mr. Ghanwat is now saying on the show, that those who had a grievance did not come to us, what do we do? In which case the committee should have said, look, you asked us to find about grievances, but those who have a grievance did not come to us. So sorry, we are unable to carry out your mandate. Or they could have said, all right, these organizations have not come to us, but we will go and speak to the farmers on the street. After all, if Padmaja could go and speak to these farmers, why could not the committee? Or the committee could have said, all right, we would get a genuine representative sample survey of the farmers of this country, which has been done incidentally. The committee does nothing of this kind. What do?
But
they speak to 73 organizations.
In saying that the committee, for example, did not come to the Samyukta Kisan Morcha,
because they don't have a grievance.
Aren't you making the assumption that it's only the Samyukta Kisan Morcha and its affiliates who get to be the voice of the farmer in India?
I'm making just one assumption. Samyukta Kisan Morcha at that time was leading a protest. That protest is what took the case to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court issued a notice to us, and Supreme Court says, here are protesting farmers. Remember, the case is about protesting farmers on the streets of Delhi. The court says, go and speak to them. The committee is unable to speak to them. I don't blame the committee. I'm only saying, please be honest and say, those who are protesting, at least Samyukta Kisan Morcha was the voice of those who had a grievance.
Okay.
It was not the voice of those who did not have a grievance.
So, Mr. Ghanwat, if you wanted it to be an honest exercise, why didn't you go to Singhu? Why didn't you go to Ghazipur?
To say Sab Changa Si?
Because now it seems Sab Changa Si.
Actually, my friend Yogendra ji is trying to twist the mandate. In our mandate, it was never said that go to the agitating farmers. The mandate was given to reach all the farmers organizations all over the country, and we tried to do that, and we had requested and invited several times the leaders of the Samyukta Kisan Morcha. We called them, we sent text messages, we sent WhatsApp messages, but there was no response, and those who replied clearly said that we don't want to interact with the company. Personally, going to that spot was risky. In days, there were security issues, so it was not very. It was not proper to go to that place. If these people would have come here to the committee, it would have been better. Their views would have been included. They would have been considered, and they would have been reflected in the committee's report. But unfortunately, they didn't come. Now what has happened has happened. Now shouldn't we discuss point by point on the recommendations? Are these recommendations really against the farmers, or is this liberating agriculture from the teachings of the government and laws? Isn't it needed for the country? For last 7 decades, we have been suffering by these laws. We want a change and we want reforms. We don't want those laws which have been repealed. We want reforms, and unless these reforms are implemented in our country, the farmers will keep going for suicide. They will be killing themselves. The farmers are not allowed to earn money.
Mr. Ghanwat said he is not pro-government or pro-farm laws. He is pro-farmer and pro-reform. And it's because
yeah.
of lack of this reform that today farmer suicides are continuing.
I would like to add one thing is that India is an agrarian country and we don't have an agriculture policy at all. What we demand is an agriculture policy. Because we don't have an agriculture policy, if some minister thinks that the prices of onion has gone high, he just announces that from tomorrow there will be no export of onion. They ban onion exports or they impose stock limits. Now the prices of wheat are rising. There is we fear that the government may impose stock limits in a few days. Maybe in a few, they may impose an export ban on wheat. So if these type of policies prevail in India, we can't be in a position to get remunerative prices. Never.
Mr. Yadav.
And other countries which are dependent on us, they don't think us credible to deal with.
Okay, Mr. Yadav, if there is going to be no reform, then the whole idea of doubling farmer incomes is only going to be an illusion now, for the next 10 years, for the next 100 years.
Padmaja, the debate is not whether we should have reforms or not. The debate is whether we should have reforms or we should have deforms. But allow me to say something very clearly, and I want to confront Mr. Anil Ghanwat. So he is saying that we, all the protesting farmers, should have come and spoken to Mr. Anil Ghanwat, who says on your show that for the last 40 years he has been supporting the laws which we were opposing. Why did we not do so? Sir, because we are not idiots. I mean, this is black and white. Isn't it ridiculous that we are discussing this on this show? You are advocates, you are not a judge, you've admitted it on this show. Why don't we be straight about it? And sir, so let's settle the first parts first. I will handle your opinions. You are entitled to your opinions, and yes, we would respond to your opinions. Please do not pretend that your opinions are opinions of farmers of this country. Please admit that all these figures of 87% farmers of this country, these are bogus. Anil ji, why don't you release the list of these 83 organizations who came and who have a membership of 3 crore 80 lakhs? Anil ji, you used to be with farmers movement. You know that these are bogus claims. Isn't it embarrassing that you say these things? You release and you say 19,000 people filled our questionnaires. Now I'm asking you point blank, please give me an answer. Out of these 19,000 responses that you have analyzed, isn't it true that only 5,000 were farmers? And if only 5,000 were farmers, why did you not separately give me the opinions of those farmers? Are you not being dishonest, sir? Is your sample representative? If it is not representative, is it not shoddy, trashy to release such things in the public domain? And could it not have been the reason why the Supreme Court was so awkward in not releasing your report?
Mr. Ghanwat, trashy statistics.
First thing I would like to clarify is that Yogendra ji is saying that we were advocating these laws for last 40 years. There were no laws till December 2020. We were demanding reforms for last 40 years, and we will keep demanding till we are alive and we get the reforms. So we were not advocating these laws.
40 years.
Actually, the government has supported our demands. So we were not supporting the laws, we were supporting the reform, demanding the reforms. Secondly, the data which is not with the committee today, it may be with the government officers, but we will try to make it that to public. Each second, each minute of our confrontation was our debate, our interaction has been videotaped, and that can be made available. The list of the farmers who were invited, who appeared before the committee, all the mails which had been received by the committee can be made public, and I'll request the government to make it public.
So just very quickly, Mr. Ghanwat, the specific statistics that are being mentioned is that, for example, let's take the online questionnaire. There were 19,027 online answers, 5,451 were farmers, and 12,496 were other stakeholders. Mr. Yadav is saying, who are these other stakeholders? Why should their opinions matter? Can you please answer that? Who are these other stakeholders?
It was open for everybody, every citizen in the country. There was no control who should send a mail or not. And other stakeholders include traders, ginners, millers, expellers, exporters, mandi officials, everybody, anybody who wanted to give a suggestion has sent a mail, and the figure is so much. Farmers are not very technology savvy. Maybe the contribution of the farmers has been low. There are but all those who have contributed, it's available and it may be made open.
So there is your answer on the participants. These are all stakeholders and everything is video recorded. Would you like to reconsider your allegation, Mr. Yadav, that these are bogus statistics and a fraudulent method?
No, I'm not saying this survey never took place. I'm saying if you do a sample of 19,000, first of all, this is what in statistics is called a self-selected sample. I do not select. Anyone who wants to come into the sample walks into the sample. Please ask any statistician in the world. Ask any economist. They would say this is the worst form of sampling ever. Please don't draw any conclusion from self-selected sample. Even if you have a self-selected sample, you happen to have 5,005 farmers, 12,000 others, the worst thing that you can do is to merge it all and say out of these 19,000 people, 50% said this. This would be stupid. You would say farmers said this, non-farmers said this. Why is the report not even doing the honest job? I'm not saying that these meetings never took place. I'm saying that this claim that the 73 organizations represent 3 crore 80 lakh farmers of this country is a laughable claim. It's a ridiculous claim.
Why is it laughable?
Mr. Ghanwat knows it. Why doesn't he make this list public?
Why is it laughable? He's saying all of this is documented. Their names, their identities, their testimonies are all documented, videographed.
Farmers movement. Well, why don't we make it public then? I want to share this. I want to see. जाके उनके चरण तो छू लेंगे जिनके करोड़ों farmers के जिनके वो हैं वो जिनके करोड़ों membership है. The only one large organization which is outside was BJP's own organization, which is Bharatiya Kisan Sangh. It's an RSS BJP organization. Yes, it has membership. Other than that, who are these remaining 72 organizations? I would like to know. And that they have membership running into lakhs. There are very few organizations, and Padmaja, when it happens, please send your reporters and find out. You would find very funny stories about these organizations. So why don't we agree on this show that the list will be made public very soon?
Okay, let's agree on that, Mr. Ghanwat.
I never said that this won't be made public. It will be made public. I'll try because it's not in our hands. The data is not in the hands of the committee today. It's not in our position, but I will try my level best to
report without consulting the Supreme Court.
Of course, I have waited for an year. I have requested 3 times. I have written letters to the Honorable Supreme Court and requested that the report be made public. But even after a year has passed and this issue is very urgent, people are dying, they are committing suicides. And if you want to stop this suicide, we need reforms. And for having these reforms, I had to make this report public. And this is no contempt of court. The Honorable Supreme Court has never mentioned that this report should be kept confidential. There is no harm in releasing the report.
Okay, if we are all in agreement with that, let's hope that the Supreme Court justices, if they are listening right now, let's make this public in public interest so that at least there can be some movement forward and there can be unanimity on what the farm laws were really about and whether the protest and the subsequent rollback was prudent or it was populism that backfired on the people who it mattered to the most, the farmers. I will leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Anil Ghanwat and Yogendra Yadav, for having joined us on the news.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.